Episode 10. Please say no. As a kid, I was desperate for affirmation. Well, to be honest, the same is still true now. But it was worse then. Buttering up to popular kids in my class, hoping to make friends, going the extra mile just to get a kudos from the teacher. Yeah, I was kind of a brown-noser. I even asked my dad at one point to give me a grade as a son, as a human being. But knowing my obsession with grades and my constant need for external validation, he humored me. I'd give you an A-, he said. We didn't talk much about where the minus came from. A perennial struggle of this people-pleasing Jeff kid, facing a no, not surprising. No meant rejection, denial. Something was broken, something missing or lacking, and I didn't measure up. No was an affirmation of what I most feared. I wasn't good enough for anything, anyone. You people pleasers in the crowd will know, or at least remember this well. An immense amount of energy was spent avoiding no, and often without conscious awareness. We avoided confrontation, we took blame on ourselves instead of correctly but gently indicting the true culprit, and we wore ourselves ragged, accepting countless jobs, tasks, invites, because someone else wanted us to say yes, and we didn't want to upset them by saying no. Fast forward to my early 40s, and I'm finally coming around to the magic of no. But there's been a distinct order to this development. First, I needed to learn how to say no myself without feeling like I was gutting the person sitting across from me. And once I managed that, and it wasn't easy, I was able to embrace the no of others. As time went on, I discovered this no saying offered very positive things. The permission for others to set boundaries, knowing they would be respected. Grace-giving in accepting limitations and not expecting superhuman engagement. Prioritization of what was important according to my own rubrics and value system. And giving space for others who have passion and skill in specific areas so that they can take them on without me getting in the way. Now, don't get me wrong, these realizations didn't come overnight, and they certainly didn't manifest quickly in practice. In fact, it's all still a work in progress. But what I've come to understand is that in this swirl of a world, when everything everywhere happens all at once, we need to know where the limits are. And when we hit them, we need to say no, or run the risk of gutting ourselves. I've seen this in my personal relationships, romantic and platonic, but also, maybe even especially at work. In fact, it's work where expertise in no saying is, I think, the most critical, and where I often see it lacking. In the good old US of A, as we all know, capitalism runs the show. And that means profits drive progress toward greater efficiency, toward innovation, good things. But in a world like ours, where tumultuous politics and global instability threaten economic stability, business leaders tend to freak out. They double down on any and all tactics that bring in money, fearing something will come along to cut them down at the knees. That's understandable, I suppose, except that there are consequences, specifically among the people that drive profits and progress. What I have seen is that top-level leaders pass down directives to lower-level employees without a sense of their general well-being or bandwidth. Or if they do know these things, they don't acknowledge them. They wait for the employees to come to them with those concerns, sometimes not addressing them even when that happens, but often all of that goes unsaid. And what do most employees do, wanting to be good at their job, to do well? They hit the mark. And some leaders, rightfully so, note that in order for a company and its people, its employees, to grow, you need to push the envelope. And I get that. And so you have a quarter of envelope pushing and a quarter passes with a marked uptick in profits. And they're happy. The CEO is happy. The employees, well, perhaps a little tired, are also happy that they have now expanded and grown and learned something new. They've accomplished something bigger than they have in the past. But here's the problem, is that it doesn't end there. It's not enough. And the envelope pushing continues. And it doesn't continue with learning and individual growth in mind. It continues for the sake of profits. So directives get bigger and more outsized, more aggressive. And at least in my experience, seldom are more resources funneled into the business to help deliver the results that leaders are looking for. Why? Well, it's more overhead, which cuts into profits. And again, I see the business logic here. I do. But people can suffer as a result. And in a perfect world, top leaders craving more and more profits would be surrounded by people who serve as guardrails, reminding them that profits are unattainable without the people on the ground keeping the company moving. But unfortunately, a lot of companies are stocked with ambitious mid-level leaders who are keenly interested in climbing the ladder. And how do they do it? They do it by saying yes instead of saying no. No to aggressive, profit-driving directives that are not benefiting employees. They're not helping employees grow. They're just exhausting them. What we really need are the experienced no-sayers, the ones who can look a CEO in the eye and say, what you're proposing is not possible with the time, labor, and money we have right now. If you want that, we need X, Y, and Z. Because as soon as anyone opens the door with a yes, and we manage somehow to deliver on crazy asks, then the floodgates open. Well, if they could do X, surely they can do Y. I've heard C-levels reason. But, and we all know this, though somehow forget it, humans are finite. We have limits. And honestly, we need our leaders to understand this, to learn how to say no. To understand that the contractual relationship we have with companies, is not a do anything for X dollars kind of relationship. We have limits, we have lives, and we owe nothing to the companies that employ us beyond what's in our contracts and job descriptions. I'm not targeting one company here. This is from 20 years of working for startups, SMBs, enterprise companies in a number of different roles. And nor am I targeting specific leaders. This is an observation of the American corporate landscape. I am making the point, however, that leaders have two primary responsibilities, as I see it. To advocate for the talent below them, while supporting the leadership above them. And that support includes informing them of what's possible and what isn't. This isn't a yes club on either side, or at least it shouldn't be. Leaders are leaders of human beings, not disembodied teams. And no, balanced with yes, can help them achieve both of the responsibilities central to their role. There are many quotes to this effect, but there are two simple ones from Tony Blair and Tim Ferriss that sum up all of this. And I like to think about them as I approach my own work and life and engagement with others. From Tony, the art of leadership is saying no, not saying yes. It's very easy to say yes. And from Tim, what you don't do determines what you can do. I'm still working on this myself. It's probably why I wouldn't make a very good executive. Not yet, anyway. But if the opportunity arises, I'll just have to know what's being asked of me, what my limits are, so that I can look the hiring manager in the eye and say, yes. Or, if it doesn't fit, if I can't handle it, I can say unapologetically, no.